Well, that was fast. Well, welcome. Welcome everyone to the Noble Shire for Progressive Discussion at Progressive Rock Central. Today I have the distinct pleasure of speaking with the entire John Hackett band, which usually doesn't happen. So thank you all for being here. We're going to be talking about their latest album, Red Institution. So welcome everyone. Let's go around the room, introduce yourselves, and just talk about what instruments or what you guys play. And we should start with John, since the band's named after him.
Okay. Okay. Well, hi, Mark, and hi, everyone. Lovely to be with you. So yeah, I'm John, and I play the flute. It's my main instrument, and I also play keyboards and the guitar.
And do you do some singing?
Oh, and I sing indeed. I do a bit of warbling from time to time, and I'm sort of a mixture in that I've always loved rock music and grew up because with my brother being in Genesis years back, so I used to go along to a lot of their concerts. So I've got that kind of background of progressive rock, but I also trained as a classical musician, so I took my flute playing very seriously, and that kind of feeds into a lot of the music that we make. I think the classical influence. So that's me.
All right. I don't know what that background noise is, but I turned my speakers down here just to make sure. But I could hear you perfectly. But there was just a little scratching or something. I don't know what it was.
I will shut this laptop down. They might be that.
Duncan, do you want to go ahead and say hi?
I will. Hello. Um, uh, when we're out performing, yes, Windows XP. I largely play just drums, although recently I'm also playing a little bit of keyboard. I also do the occasional backing vocal. In recording, I play a few more keyboards and look after a number of the technical aspects of the band, like the video projections and a lot of the recording stuff. So that's me.
And you go ahead. It looks like Nick's ready, or whoever wants to go.
I was just going to remind Duncan he's also band chauffeur too, so, which is an excellent job he does.
Quite right.
So
we're kind of losing you in and out.
Can you not hear me?
It comes in.
I'm here.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Well, I'm Nick Fletcher, and I play the guitar in the John Hackett band. That's it. I don't do any more than that. I don't sing, and I don't dance, and I don't play the triangle.
Oh, you do dance.
Or flute.
Oh, okay. We're
Don't tell
talking
about that.
dancing, huh? No. Is that the Ghost in the Machine dancing thing, or something else?
Oh yes, that's, we don't get involved with that. We are strictly non-dancing progressive rock musicians.
Okay.
We're very serious about our art, Mark.
So it's more of a confident strut, isn't it, Nick? Kind of. Yeah.
Confidence strut, Duncan. That's probably it.
You guys know what I'm talking about when I talk about the Ghost in the Machine dancing thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
People over here probably won't know what I'm talking about, but there's a band, Ghost in the Machine, and they're from England or UK, and I always do that. And they have this little fake fight going on about can you dance to prog music, and it's a lot of fun. They're having fun with it.
Well, the truth is, you can dance to anything. Just remember that Rite of Spring was a ballet.
There you go.
You can dance to anything.
If your heart,
Jeremy, what do you play?
If your heart desires, get out there and dance. And if you have a wife, you know you have to dance. At least with me, and that's good, and it's a lot of fun.
We did a gig recently in London, in a place called Camden, and we were all quite surprised. But by the end of the evening, pretty much everybody was dancing.
Oh, good!
Which is a real first for us, and we were all sort of looking at each other, very shocked, but very pleasantly surprised. But the audience probably had a few drinks, so that helped. But at least they were appreciating the gig.
Well, there you go. Yeah, we went to a local show here. Nick knows, I think, a little bit about these guys. I've been involved with Washington's Records, and they had, I think he knows Hannah and somebody.
Hannah Strickland.
She was there, and Hannah and Tim, and they had this thing they were going to be dancing, and it ended up no one ended up dancing, but a lot of people did get drunk. Jeremy, I'm sorry, we're not neglecting you. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about you. Say
hi. I play the bass. I play acoustic guitar. I sing. When we record, I do a bit of 12 string and a bit of keyboard stuff and atmospheric stuff. But mainly when we're doing live stuff, which is predominantly what we do, yeah, it's bass, voice, acoustic guitar, and very nice it is too.
Absolutely. All right, so your first show was at the Greystones in Sheffield in April. And that, I guess that was also the band's 10-year anniversary as well. Tell us about that show and how much fun was it to get back out there again and perform? And did you do the entire album?
Well, it wasn't the first one, Mark. We did one before, I think.
Oh, there was one? Okay.
There was one before that was, I think we if I'm rightly in this, that was the launch of the album gig at Greystones. But also, many thanks to you, we also had Olga supporting us too.
Oh yeah.
And of course, I met Olga through you, so that's been a great connection. And she's been doing quite a lot of work with us in the first few gigs this year. So thanks to you, Mark, for sort of making that contact. It's good.
Well, thank you. You've taken her under your wing and you've had her on your album, and I think she's going to come back on your new album if I'm not mistaken. And,
yeah, she's doing a lot on the new album. Yeah,
and yeah, she's got a wonderful voice, wonderful person. And to do what she did is amazing. To come over here from Russia, she did. Yeah, you got to take your head off to her. She's an amazing person. I think you guys also were with Heather Finley as well. If you haven't, going to be.
Yeah, we've done a number of gigs with Heather, and
yes.
In fact, we were just recently down in Cornwall, in Devon. So it's been brilliant having her with us, and we've had various singers with us. We've had Heather. We also had Amy Burks has guested with us. So often what we've had is somebody opening the show for us, and then coming and joining the band to sing some of the songs. And it makes it more of a show, really, and it's lovely to have the female vocal mixed in with Jeremy's wonderful vocals. And so, yeah, it's been really good.
All right. And so since you're talking about the 10th anniversary, I think I've asked Nick before, but let's hear it from everyone. How did you guys all get together? How was it, getting back together for your 10th anniversary, putting this album together?
Well,
you're all still...
The band really got together in I did an album for Esoteric Antenna Records and called Another Life, and there was going to be a record launch, and I was going to just sing some of the songs on my own, which was a bit daunting because it's not the sort of thing I normally do. I thought I'd give it a go. And Nick, who I'd already been working with as a guitarist, as a classical guitarist, we had a flute and guitar duo, and we had concerts and everything. And he was round, and I played some of the songs to him just to see what he thought, and I was really up to it, to be honest. And Nick just picked up my son's Stratocaster and started playing along, and ludicrously. I had no idea that he was such a fantastic electric player.
Yeah, he is.
And it was so much better having Nick with me. And then Duncan joined us on percussion for that launch. So we started like as a trio, and I think it was Nick. I was said, where's the bass player? If we had a bass player, we could be a proper band. So immediately Jeremy appeared on the scene, and Duncan played me some stuff that Jeremy had done. In fact, it was a song that ended up on this new album called Stella. And I was immediately impressed with Jeremy's, not just his singing and his playing, but his writing skills as well. And it kind of went from there. That was.
Funnily enough, I found the footage the other day from that launch.
Did you?
The three
Oh
of
my
us.
goodness! Right.
It won't be made public, but I found it.
Oh, it was a good night. I remember it. I loved it. I met Ant Phillips. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes, he was there. Lovely
Yeah.
too. Because Ant had played on the album that I did Another Life, and great guy, lovely guy. So
in the 90s, I used to write to him saying, it's like, oh, that's great, the album you've just put out. You could do with a real drummer though. I'm a real drummer. And he was always very polite, very lovely, and said no.
That's a shame.
I've still got all the letters that he sent back, actually. But yes, so finally, I end up on an album with Ant Phillips. So it's John's album, produced by Nick Magnus, with Ant Phillips playing 12-string and harpsichord on it. These three behemoths of progressive music, and I'm there playing triangle.
It also had some bloke called Steve Hackett on it as well.
Don't forget Steve was on it too.
Not of that.
Yeah, Steve was playing too on it.
Last year, I had the opportunity to interview Nick Magnus. He is a wonderful guy for his solo album, and just fantastic guy to talk to, and
very talented guy. Very talented. Yeah.
Well, we all met up with Nick recently because it was we had a big celebration for John's birthday. We shan't tell you which one it was, but we had a nice big
mention
birthday
the number,
with John.
please. Don't mention.
And
he looks young.
So Nick Magnus turned up to John's birthday bash, and also Steve did as well. So we had a great night. It was really good.
That sounds wonderful. How well is Red Institution? I don't know if I want to use the word selling. Are people lining up to buy it? And I know you've been getting some good reviews. How have the reviews been?
Yeah, reviews have been absolutely great. It is selling. I mean, generally CD sales are, certainly for us, they're down from where they were some years ago. But it is selling. We've been thrilled with the reviews that we've had. So and also the audience reaction that we've had.
We've been selling quite a few.
Yeah, we sell at gigs. Yeah. It's one of the great things about playing live is people hear you and want to buy the album, and they want something in their hand to sign. So that's all very much part of it.
Well, I think you've done 7 or 8 shows. Do you want to talk about any of those in particular, or anything specific?
I think the like the other guys are saying, the reviews for the album have been very, very positive, very imaginative. Really, people have taken a lot of time to consider what the album's about, which is always very refreshing. And I think what's come across in the reviews of the live shows is, I think there's a great deal of appreciation for the fact that it's a marriage of the old and the new. That we're doing a lot of the stuff from Red Institution, but obviously we're doing the stuff from Voyage of the Acolyte, which is 50 years old. So I think we have sort of to a certain degree, we've struck gold by taking that approach. But I mean, it's just happens to be the right year to do it. But it certainly ticked the right boxes, and we've been all over the place. Even in the dates we've done, we've been up to Scotland, we've been way down to Cornwall. Big distances when you're traveling in this country, at least, and we've got a bit of a break now, a couple of festivals, and then the tour resumes again later in September. And again, we're out and about. all over the place then. But yeah, the reviews have been really very, very uplifting, I would say.
All right, and we talked about some of those collaborators you're working with, Ola and Heather, but there's even more. Do you want to talk about some of the other people, and especially Amy Burks? I'm sorry, Burks, not Banks. See, it's the Tony Banks thing. It's the
Yeah, well, Amy, I started working with Amy on her solo albums that she did. I mean, she sent me a track to play on for her first solo album, and I absolutely loved it. And then she just asked me for more and more flute, and then I played on a second album, and eventually I've ended up joining the Beatrix players, the new look Beatrix players, which has been a lot of fun. But on this album, on Red Institution, Amy guests on "I Talk to the Wind," the King Crimson classic. It's the only cover version that is on the album, and I mean I've told the story many times, but it's basically the reason I took up the flute was hearing Ian MacDonald play a fantastic flute solo from "I Talk to the Wind" back in 1969 when I saw King Crimson in the Marquee Club in Wardour Street. And it was absolutely lovely being able to, record a version of that with Amy and Jeremy doing fantastic vocals, and it's very much an important part of the live show that we do, whether it's Amy who comes and guests with us, or Heather, or Olga.
Yeah, but it's definitely one of my favorite songs of theirs. It's just if you're watching, I never have seen them live. I mean, I haven't seen them do that song live. I've seen way back when they were playing, but they didn't play that song for whatever reason. But it would have stopped me in my tracks to hear that, because it is just it locks you in and you cannot escape it. It's such a fantastic song, for sure. So thank you guys for bringing it back into this new generation that probably have never heard it before, and they're like, "Oh my God, what's this?" I hope.
Well, it's a gorgeous song, and I think it uses the flute so beautifully, because the solos have a real place in the song, because it's a gorgeous song in itself. But bringing the instrumental parts in, it has a special meaning.
All right. Well, John, you just mentioned one of your biggest influences. Right now, who are some of your favorite bands? We'll just kind of go around the room. New bands, because I know all of you had sort of classical training, and some of the background that you guys have shared is similar. But today, if somebody was to ask you, like I'm about to, who are you listening to before you jumped on here? Who are you listening to? Who do you like that's current?
Oh, well, that's a problem, really, because speaking, I'm not a very current sort of guy. I would say most of the stuff I listened to was either written 30 years ago or possibly 200 years ago. I mean, I listen to a lot of classical music, really, for myself, or I guess, and actually, I think I probably spend the lion's share of my time listening to classical music these days.
Who's your favorite composer?
At the moment, it's Borodin.
Okay.
I have a great affection for him, and yeah. So, but it changes. It changes. It'll be Debussy again next year, I'm sure. It sort of circulates. They have a revolving kind of rota system in my heart. But yeah, as far as contemporary music goes, I would say that I'm largely at a bit of a loss. although I like a bit of Billie Eilish, I must admit.
Yeah, no, they just had a thing on her. Her voice is incredible. Don't know her.
The intimacy of the sound is very beautiful, and actually, I think that she's a very emotional singer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
I think. Sorry. Do carry on.
No, Nick, you go.
Are you sure? That's very kind. I was just going to say that in the world of progressive music, I have slight problems with a lot of modern progressive music in the so much of it is very derivative of bands from the past, and I find it hard sometimes to hear real talented, gifted musicians who are creating something that's new, something that's different, and which is obviously a very difficult thing to do for anyone, because there's nothing new under the sun. But it's very easy in the progressive world to fall into the sort of formulas of the past which created the genre, and so you're not really thinking about moving things forward or sideways or whatever. So I think, like with Jeremy saying, that sometimes I think he finds it hard to find bands or to hear people that really give that aspect to what they're doing artistically. But I have to admit there is a few people that I do like very much. Obviously, one of them we already talked about is Amy, because when we were in the car recently, we were traveling and we were listening to one of the Beatrix Players albums. I think, was it the first one, Jeremy?
It was Magnified.
Yeah, and it's such a fantastic album. It's beautiful in every respect, and different. And also, Amy has a very distinctive voice. So people like Amy and the Beatrix Players, of which John is also now part of, they're a very interesting band that are moving, in a direction that's more unique and less derivative, I think. I'd also say that the same with the Black Art Orchestra. They're the same. They're doing something unique and different. And also Olga, I like very much because she has such a unique approach, which is pushing the sort of envelope of what progressive music is. So artists like that really I find really interesting to listen to, because they're not falling into the cliches. And I think we as a band also like to feel that we don't fall into cliches, and we're trying to find our own way. We're doing something that's maybe built around the things I've heard in the past. I mean, Duncan's written some great stuff. It is, I can say, oh, it's a bit derivative of Gentle Giant, but it's not Gentle Giant. It's something different. But that's great because they're a great band, and to have music like that in our set is something different also, because that was progressive music in the 70s that was also pushing the boundaries and doing something a bit different. So yeah, that's the kind of thing I like at the moment.
Have any of you guys heard of the band, the Book of Revelations? They're from the UK, and they don't buy. I'm going to be reviewing their album, but they don't bother just grabbing the same melodies from Genesis, early Genesis, and then changing the lyrics. And I thought that was pretty bold in itself. Again, no, it doesn't move anything forward, like you said, Nick.
Well, it's progressive rock and progressive music are not the two. They're not the same. They're very different things.
Yeah. But my listening taste.
Go ahead.
No, for me, progressive music will also pull in like Penguin Cafe Orchestra and other things that don't have the sidelong Hammond solo. And so my listening taste at the moment, I put on quite a bit of music at a local theatre, and so I've been listening to a lot more kind of acoustic music that veers towards folk or kind of raw folk, but there's still kind of people pushing boundaries with it. And so I've heard quite a bit of a chap called Chris Brain and Katie Spencer, who are kind of rising stars of the UK folk scene. But there's something kind of, they're like Chris Brain has sort of started with what Nick Drake was doing and then gone further with it. And Katie Spencer is very influenced by John Martin, but not just staying in the solid air space. She's pushing her own way forward. It's always really nice on the CD changer in the car when her album kind of comes around again. It's like, oh, this is nice. But so there are local artists as well who I'm hoping will kind of get more coverage as time goes on. I was handed a CD by a chap called Mark Beltane, who it's just this lovely folky, but kind of with a progressive elements in it, and he's just pushing kind of the sides. And a couple of other friends of mine, there's a lady called Robin Gare who writes these fantastic tunes, and her voice is just amazing, but again kind of pushing boundaries kind of lyrically and playing with melody. And there's a local vocal troupe called the Midsummers, who are kind of a bit gothic but still got this sort of progressive, and it's almost entirely vocal with occasional string section, but these overwhelming hints of Black Sabbath coming through, and it's just wonderful stuff. People really exploring harmonic ideas and how to present kind of both old stuff and reinterpret old stuff to create new music. So I've always been very interested in kind of the progressive, but kind of a bit with Nick. It was happening 50 years ago as well. Kind of there were some people kind of like, oh, I like Jethro Tull, so we'll try and be a bit Tull. It's always been there, but the things that have sustained are the records that actually got made.
Yeah,
where the record companies were kind of being a bit gatekeeper of who's actually who they think is likely to go ahead. And sometimes they made poor decisions, and sometimes it seems that no, actually they did get it right, and some really fantastic art was created. But good art is still being created. But there's always the actually having to find it sometimes.
You do have to dig deeper these days. Yeah, John.
Oh,
who are you?
I'm going to go with the. I to be honest, I mostly listen to classical music. I'm still processing the past. I mean, just the music of Bach.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That's a lifetime study in itself. Jeremy mentioned Debussy, but I love Debussy's piano music, and Eric Satie, who was like a precursor of a lot of what Debussy was doing. So I don't listen to a lot of modern progressive music. But what excites me about us and our band is this the classical influence that we have with. I mean, Nick's a fantastic classical guitar player, and obviously I've studied classical flute playing, and so when it comes to pieces like Theme and Rondo off of the new album Red Institution, that's very much driven by not just the melody, but also an influence of a lot of Baroque flute concertos by people like Vivaldi. Lots of very fast arpeggio passages, and it's very much having studied the classical side of things that informs that rock side, and that's what I find exciting. And there's another piece we do, Red Hair, which in a similar vein, that is kind of combination of rock and classical. So I'm still trying to process the hundreds of years of music that have gone on before us, that probably, and I'm still stuck back in the 1960s and 70s really, in terms of what I mostly listen to. So.
I think for the next album we should do a really rock version of "Summer Is a Coming In."
Yeah, but I did enjoy Olivia Rodrigo actually headlining Glastonbury. I thought she was terrific.
Oh yeah, with the Cure.
Really enjoyable and a great show. You know, so
Yeah, she
Something
brought the Robert Smith up from the Cure.
If I interject, I would just something that I think sometimes gets forgotten is that the old progressive acts back in the day weren't studying other progressive acts. They were listening to Otis Redding and Sam Cooke, or they were listening to Bartok, or they were listening to Stravinsky. They weren't studying each other, you know. And so, in a sense, I think if you're kind of contemplating your own musical navel, then you're really unlikely to produce the same sort of thing. So I'm very wary of that, and I also feel that if you're kind of too slavish to a particular genre and its expectations, then you kind of lose the emotional marrow of what music is about. And I think once you pass that, you're really just a technician.
Yeah.
And I never want to be that. I want the music to connect on a deep level with people. And if it doesn't do that, it's failed. You know, I'm not interested in the pyrotechnics. Don't care about it at all. Does this connect? Have people be moved? Unfortunately, it seems from I say going back to the review that definitely has been the case. I mean, you know, it was lovely. We had some people who from Ebb came and saw us up at Bannerman's in Scotland, and they were saying how I don't know what it was we played, but that they'd been moved to tears by it. And you hear something like that, particularly from your peers, and you think, well, we must be doing something right then, you know, because if you connect that deeply, then something's going right. So bless Suna and Dog and Nikki for making that observation. That was very touching.
Well, let's talk about the album. Who's Stella? And we'll get started with that song. And just tell us what the inspiration was.
Yeah, come on, Jeremy. I'm curious. We've been playing this for years. Who is she?
Well, actually, Stella as a song. Sorry, I'm disappearing. I look like Colonel Kurtz here. Stella started out as a 5/4 keyboard riff that Duncan had written, and he sent it across to me, and it kind of sparked my imagination, and I got the guitar out and started putting some slide on it, and it kind of just evolved, and from there. But it's actually how it became what it is, which is basically it's based on a 16th century sonnet cycle by Sir Philip Sidney, Elizabethan courtier. 101 poems, all about Astrophil and Stella, which means star lover and star. And it's all about them, but sort of imagining, rather than sort of couching it in florid Elizabethan Shakespearean language, sort of thinking of it more in modern terms. So they're present day Elizabethan star-crossed lovers, really. And it's, you know, it's always cute to play with 5/4. It's a fun time signature, and I kind of love it. It's a song I'm very proud of, and it's very close to my heart. But no, Nick, it doesn't. There isn't a secret Stella out there anywhere.
See, I thought it was
beer.
When I saw the title, the first thing that comes to mind is Picard named Desire and Brando. Yeah, Stella. You know,
Yeah,
nothing.
Stanley Wachowski.
But you guys remember that, right?
Yeah, a bit of Marlon Brando. Yeah. No, nothing to do with that at all.
All right, and John talked a little bit about theme and rondo. Does anyone want to add to that, or?
Well, John wrote theme and
John. All right, yeah, no. So John had written this piece, and what was nice was when we started kind of mucking about with it in the room, kind of how we can kind of get the best arrangements that really shows off the melodies to their best extent. And where he's got this theme and a rondo kind of, so it's repeated, and how we can play with that. So we have like the halftime section where Jeremy's playing slap bass, and we play with the dynamics a lot, and it's just it was good fun working out what to do to actually just support this great melody. It's something that you can really whistle along to, apart from where he goes, it's like, if you can whistle along to that, you're a better whistler than me. But there's a lot of excitement, and it's got these, it turns corners kind of quite often, and it's great fun to play live, and people seem to appreciate it on the dance floor as well. So yes, that's my observation on that. I think Jeremy was going to say something.
No, not at all. Well, I mean, what I love about it is that it's got this wonderful. I mean, John's said to mention before that it's got a sort of kind of focusy kind of vibe to it, and I think that's very on point. But you've got this wonderful classical structure with a killer groove behind it, and that's just enormous fun. You've just got the best of both worlds there, in my view.
And some lovely soloing from Nick as well.
Oh, you're too kind. But the thing, one of the things I like about the piece also is there's a central section which comes around a couple of times, and I mean it's always reminded me when we first sort of kicked this tune around a while ago. It always reminded me of Camel, and every time I play that bit, it's like a bit of a dream come true, because it feels like I'm sort of emulating Andy Latimer, who was one of my favorite guitarists in the 70s. So it's just great because it just has that feel, something about the chord structure and the feel of the rhythm and the way Duncan plays the drums on it. I always feel that it moves into sort of Camel territory at that point, which was a band I really liked, and I feel quite at home with that melody when it comes in. I don't always remember it. I sometimes get it wrong when we play it live, but most of the time I play it right on the album. I think I do. But it just has a lovely flavour about it that is very nostalgic for me. I mean, it's not something that John deliberately did, and we never plagiarize anybody, and we don't want to seek to be anybody. But it just has the flavour, which I personally can connect with.
You guys,
I like to think it's quite melodic, that section that you're talking about.
Very melodic, John. Very melodic.
I'm always, I suppose, being a flute player, because normally with the flute, especially if you're playing in an orchestra or anything like that, you're nearly always playing the tune. I mean, not always, but more often than not, you are carrying the tune. So I'm always conscious of, is it a good tune? Is it a good melody? Yeah. So the writing that I do is always driven by that. Is the melody strong? Is it memorable? Would you want to play it again? Or is it just forgettable?
Well, I always enjoy playing it again and again.
Great. Yeah. But no, you do a great job on it, Nick. I was absolutely thrilled the way it turned out on the album. Absolutely thrilled with it.
It's always a difficult one playing with John, because after so many years of playing with his brother, and you have to play the guitar in the band with John, it has been a bit daunting over the years.
You do a great job, Nick.
Thanks, John. But
the thing is, you give it your own stamp. I mean, like we've been doing, like Shadow of the Hierophant, for example, off of Voyage of the Acolyte, is part of the show, and Nick really takes off at the end of that. He really does his own thing and goes off into an improvisation around that amazing chord sequence that finishes Shadow of the Hierophant. It's absolutely fantastic. The roof just lifts off when Nick does that. So he sort of made it his own, and I think that's great. We're not the sort of band that just wants to copy other people, imitate other people.
John.
I think
that's great.
Has come across. It's the same. And it's the same. We did a version of Tau Struck Down. Again, Nick does some fantastic improvisation coming out of that, which gives a real sort of wildness to it. The track, is implicit in that track. So Nick is just a fantastic guitarist,
but
creates
I found
tremendous energy on stage. You know, I mean, a lot of it's about energy. I think with us that you know it's got to really be, you know,
Well,
on fire. You know,
speaking of energy, it's got to be fun pulling that album back out of the
it's great.
and playing it again. Because I've done that, you know, many times when Steve started doing that. I pulled it back out after not hearing it for a long time, and I think I've told everyone before. I'm
again, you
Genesis
see, I
fan,
think,
but it must be
they're
fun to play that live. I'm sorry.
no. I was just to say they're very strong melodies. That's the thing. I mean, Ace of Wands, it's a fantastic melody. On the original, of course, it's done with electric guitar. We're doing it with flute plus guitar. Hands of the Priestess, wonderful, wonderful melody. You know, I've been playing it now for you know over 50 years, and I never get tired of it because it's a fantastically well constructed melody that takes some unexpected twists and turns in the harmony. And you know, it's so that's the joy of it. It's great melody.
When you're on stage and you're looking out into that audience, hopefully you see younger people. How are they taking it in, like you and I did when we were kids, or is
I think Jeremy should answer that because we had a couple of experiences. We've had a couple of experiences recently, Mark, where that has happened. I think Jeremy could expand more on that.
Yeah, well, in doing sort of promotion for these gigs, it's you're reaching out to everyone and everywhere. It's very easy to get sucked into just sort of relying on social media, but you know there are things beyond that world, believe it or not. Publications and which you know it's worth tracking down and seeing if they'll be interested. And we had a young lady, a young reporter, come along to see us in Glasgow, and another young lady reporter come to see us in Newcastle. And for both of them, it was their first experience of seeing any kind of progressive music live. And I think possibly because it was their first experience, their review was so considered as to the effect it was having and what they noted about what kind of music it was and what it encompassed. It was kind of almost like it was refreshing in a way, because it's like this is how I felt about this kind of music the first time I heard it. So it was kind of capturing that moment again and then putting that into a journalistic sort of context. And so, you know, we were very lucky that they came across, and, you know, I mean, those are reviews that we will be able to use for years to come, just to say, well, look, this is somebody who didn't know anything about this music before, and this is the effect it had on them. So, you know, you can cast your net a little bit wider than perhaps you thought. We were very lucky.
What's encouraging with those as well is that in both places that we played, the breadth of music and options that they will have had that evening, they could have gone to so many other things, but they chose to come along and experiment and, you know, find out what this music is. And so that was kind of refreshing. Kind of, it wasn't kind of blinkered. They were very open to, you know, to try something out, try something new out.
And I think Steve doing these, bringing these albums back out and doing them live, he must be seeing on stage that feeling. I mean, obviously, people our age, we know all about the songs, we know all the words, everything. But for me, for instance, I never got to see Peter Gabriel sing Supper's Ready live. So it gives you that, and no, it's not Peter Gabriel, but it gives you that chance to experience it. But more importantly, to keep this prog machine rolling, are the young people, are they listening to this like we did for the first time and saying, oh God, I didn't know about this. I got to go find out more. I'm hoping, I'm really hoping.
Well, and I think it's the quality of the songwriting as well that means that it's still hugely enjoyable to go and hear these albums being being performed.
Does he get that sort of feedback? He must, because he keeps doing it. He's touring all over the world and then comes back and does it again. So he must be sensing that there is, not just for our age group, but hopefully for young.
Oh, it's absolutely. There's tremendous interest out there. Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Good. We got to keep this going. Well, you can't do a UK album without talking about the rain. And we have a lot of rain over here in Washington. So who let the rain in?
Yeah, okay. Well, that's really a song that's about my concerns about social media, really.
Right.
It's a big concern of mine. I, like a lot of people, when it first became a thing back in the MySpace days 20 years ago, I was utterly swept up in it, particularly as a vehicle to get your music heard by all sorts of people across the world. It seemed like a golden opportunity. It seemed like a new frontier, but it wasn't. And unfortunately, it has become. I mean, well, with the caveat that obviously there are connections, and we probably wouldn't be having this conversation if it didn't exist. I do accept that. But the flip side of it is that it's very addictive, attention consuming, and because of those things, there are a lot of vested interests that want your attention for all kind of unhealthy reasons. Certainly, our generation can remember a time before it. My children's generation cannot. So that kind of scares me. The amount of time that people devote to it scares me. So it's kind of, I guess, it's a metaphorical rain, and it's sort of like, what do we do now that the box has been opened on this stuff? We've got to manage it somehow, but I don't know if we're managing it particularly well, particularly in relation to young people and children, and in fact, in some cases, very young children. So I think it's a legitimate concern. I mean, obviously you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I think there needs to be greater responsibility amongst everyone.
Yeah.
In how we use it and who's exposed to it. I'm not sure that's the case at this point in time.
Well, piling on to that one, and I know Nick's going to want to talk about this, but AI, now you've got that coming, and it's like we already, like you say, we have problems with social media. Now this thing is, rearing its ugly head. And like you say, I know how Nick feels, and we're definitely going to listen, but how do you guys feel generally? Is this something to avoid, or what do you think?
Well, I think just to lighten the mood, without wanting to burst Jeremy's serious bubble, it's a beautiful song with a very serious subject matter, and but it's very hilarious live, because he always gives everyone this speech about the perils of social media, but then always then says, "Well, please follow us on Facebook and Instagram."
Yeah, exactly.
It's what you call an oxymoron, I think, but it's very funny. But
you can't do with it.
Adds a bit of humour to the gig.
Two things could be true at the same time.
Exactly.
Very Jungian.
Very young. Beat me to it now.
On the AI front that you started to go there, I'm by trade for the last 30 years. I'm a developer. The last 15 years been quite involved in audio plugins I looked after the code for a thing called Mtron Pro, which is the biggest selling software Mellotron plugin that most albums that you will hear Mellotron on these days isn't a real one. It's more than 70% likely to be Mtron Pro, and that has been a pleasure to work on. And sadly, I'm not so much there. So anyway, I have kind of more sort of an eye on the back end of what's happening with how the processing of large language models, or kind of not even kind of the language, just processing large amounts of data. And that's something that's interested me a lot. And it's often cited the case where Baker had wanted to try and automate the process of weeding out kind of the buns, bread cakes, however we want to. I don't know what you call them in your part of America, but in Britain we have about 10 different names for a small bit of bread.
Okay.
Bap.
No, Scott. No, just scones and scones. This is more kind of just a small bit of. It will be called a bread cake. It will be called a bread roll. It will be called a bap.
You call it bap.
Bun or roll, probably.
Yeah. So anyway, this baker had a factory, and he wanted to be able to identify the burnt ones to get rid of them, the things he couldn't sell.
Avoid that. Yeah, nobody wants.
Yeah, and so he trained this system on what a badly baked bun looks like, and so they could reject them. And someone involved in cancer research had heard about it and thought, well, if it can be, this thing can be trained to find out kind of buns, could it be trained to weed out cancerous cells? And so they went on a process, experimented, and it has this, huge hit rate in correctly identifying cancer cells. And so that's where AI, I believe, should be used. That's a tremendous thing. There's still an environmental impact on it, because it still requires a lot of processing, which the data centers need to be kept cool, and the type of water they need to use is the water that we drink.
Yeah.
And one may go on about, well, there's the water cycle, and it's like, no, that's not the case. Once it's out and actually part of the water cycle, the minerals that are in it kind of need to be pure. It's just a nightmare situation. But the idea we always had was that computers and robots would take the work away from us so that we can have more leisure time. But the use of ChatGPT and Claude and the various things to do the writing for us, to do the thinking for us, to create the pictures for us. And now with that, bands who've been revealed on Spotify to be an AI creation. How is it that the robots and the computers are creating the art and having all the fun,
Really?
and we're the ones doing the automated tasks? I think we've lost something there, and we should be concentrating more on getting the robots to do the cancer research while we create the art. But that's just me. I'm sure other people have other views.
Well, definitely
anyway,
want to hear,
there we are.
John, how do you feel about it?
Who, me?
Sorry, who's that? Tim?
Sorry?
John, if he's interested. You don't have to. I'm just saying if you're interested.
Well, no, I mean, I agree with what you're saying about AI. Yeah, if it's creating music, I mean, all right, if people want to listen to that, they can, but it's not very helpful for the rest of us. Yeah, I agree with what Duncan was saying about that. Obviously, there are times when technology can be fantastic help to humanity, but when it's actually just copying artists' work, whether they're musicians or painters, and then pushing it out as if it's something original and, you know, owning the copyright on it. I mean, that really is a very, very slippery slope.
Well, I had to try it myself. I just and so I tried Copilot, and what I did is a couple of days ago I finished a review. I just put it in there just to see what would happen, and the thing came back and said, "This is a marvelous review," and I'm like, "Well, that's nice," but I mean, didn't really change anything. But yeah, I'm not. I'm somewhere in between because I don't want to lose my job, my position, things that I'm doing in life. But uh, like Duncan, I do see some advantages and some things that can help people. But yeah, I'm in between at it. Yeah, because I see young people using it. Um, I think, well, maybe you guys all know Doris Brendel.
Mhm.
She uses it. She uses it to create music videos, and I'm telling you, I thought those are MTV level videos. I mean, you could sense some of the, you know, some of it wasn't real. I mean, obviously dragons and things like that, but to be able to do that for an independent artist that couldn't afford to go to a video producer to do these things. Um, I think it's a good outlet as long as you're using it for that, for like Duncan's saying, for support rather than your primary creation.
Hmm.
Have any of you seen any of those videos?
No,
Okay.
no. I think it's a very fine line. It's a very fine line,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I kind of feel, and this is just my own view. I guess I feel that an artist's position should always be a dissenting position,
Okay.
rather than a compliant one. And I feel that with things like AI, there is an expectation that because it's this new technology and it can be applied everywhere, that we should all be complying and getting on board.
No, no.
This is the way it's going to be, and the expectation is we will just crack on and accept it. Now, I don't feel that way. I think that one should dissent against things which are where there is a threat, and there is a definite threat here to well, certainly in the world we work in terms of artistic creation. And if you create a marketplace where really someone can say, "Oh, play me something that sounds like Pink Floyd," and AI will generate it for you, then really the artist is redundant.
Mm.
You know, there's really no place. And to be honest, it's easier and it's cheaper, isn't it? You know, it's play me something that sounds like Pink Floyd. Well, no record companies got involved in that. No players got involved in that. Really, it's just a sales job, isn't it? And I don't know. I guess I object to that profoundly.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I have respect for Miss Brendel making those videos. I understand it. Yeah, there's no money to make videos when you're operating at this level. I'm not sure I would want to, but I can understand. You know, if it's producing sort of such wonderful results, then you know, I guess some would
Well,
say, well,
she doesn't. She doesn't, as far as I know, doesn't use it for the music itself. It's just for the videos, which, yeah, we all know how much time and effort it would take to, and I'm sure it takes her a lot of time to put all that together. It's not, you don't just throw something up and AI creates everything for you. She's doing a lot of the developing it's herself. But yeah, and as far as I know, she doesn't use it for the music, and I don't think she ever would. But
no,
just to be able to, put out 5, 6, 7 videos of all the songs on your album, to try to do that individually, not only in terms of all the creativity that's involved, but the time and the money. I mean, you've got to take time to go and get videoed and all that stuff. This, for me, I think would be a lot easier. And I mean, I can understand it. Yeah. Nick, I can't believe it. You haven't said anything, but I know you gotta.
Well, I don't think I've needed. There's nothing really to add to everything I think has been said to what I feel about it. I mean, with the exception that I'm quite happy for AI to produce a music video if it means I don't have to be in it. That makes life a lot easier for me, and I'm sure it'll be much more interesting for the viewer.
I'll make you a video, Nick.
Oh, thank you, Duncan.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, but you know, I think you probably gleaned from our interview so far, Mark, that the thing that unites all of us is that we are quite, what's the word? We're quite creatively driven people.
Yeah.
Who, and so anything that goes against our innate desire to create is going to piss us off. So.
But
AI is some such thing.
Definitely. No, and I understand. But I didn't just submit my work just to, get congratulations. I was hoping that the thing would come back and say, you need to change this, you need to change this. And it didn't. But I mean, for me, that would have been a good thing, rather than put this thing out there, have that extra person there looking, that extra editor sort of looking
so
at
so you using it as a copy editor or kind of publisher to kind of look over before
just to make sure I'm doing the right thing, and
well, maybe you were doing the right thing, Mark. Maybe you were doing the right thing.
I guess I was, but in that instance, exactly. but yeah, I mean it helps that was nice reinforcement. If nothing else, but yeah, I looked at it as I'm a teacher, and teachers are not afraid to be taught, and good teachers anyway. Some of them, this is the way or the highway. I'm not that kind. So yeah, you're always learning, and yeah, you got to be open to think that at least
it's quite frightening, really, because recently somebody had an app on their phone where you could say to the app. I mean, I'm a technological Luddite, so I don't know much about this kind of stuff, but I know what an app is just about. So this person said, "Oh, why don't you ask the app to create a lyric for a prog rock song based upon Greek mythology?" So I said, "Oh, create a prog rock song based upon Greek mythology," and within a nanosecond, it came back with about 6 verses of brilliant lyric writing, which encapsulated something that would have taken a human being months to come up with. That was quite scary.
It is.
And to think that people could use that then to create a song out of that is very scary, because that's not come from, my thought. It's just been generated through the AI. And that's for me, that's a bit of a scary world.
All right, let's get away from this.
Yes, do.
Let's get away from the scary here for a minute. Let's come back and talk about dancing. How about Claire's tango?
That's one of my pieces, with a bit of Nick as well. It started off as a piece called Claire's Dance on my 2020 album, Common Sense Dancing. I was house sitting for a friend in 2014, and I'd come down in the morning, put the kettle on to make a cup of tea, and they had a nice upright in the living room. So I sat down and just started playing these chords in a particular timing, which, got the slide rule out. It turned out it was in 13/8. And there was just something in the nature of the changes that, rather than following kind of standard blues or cycle of fifths, I decided to make the changes by just moving a finger and say, how much. I don't know what's up with John.
Yeah, he's really.
I do
Sorry,
apologise for my friend.
It's okay.
No.
So it was just kind of the physical movement on the keyboard, changing the harmony. I have no idea who this chap
You're
I'm working
bad
with.
man, John Hackett.
Anyway,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
There's like an
So,
inside joke going on here, but
no, it's
maybe
totally
it was
inside him. I
inside,
have no idea.
Do carry on, Duncan.
So I had this piece that has these changes, and it reminded me of an old friend called Claire, and so I named it after her. And it starts off as a kind of a minimalist thing, and then the whole structure repeats with Nick soloing over the top, and everyone kind of rather liked it. Said, "Oh, we could do that in the band." It was like, "Oh, all right, well, that's very kind." So I did an arrangement that we could play as the band, and then it got to a point where it's kind of like, well, we need to change. And Nick said, "Oh, well, we could play something like this." And it goes down, bam, 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 bam. It's like, "Oh, great. Okay, well, we'll do that." So Nick kind of wrote the second half, just a riff he invented on the spot in the rehearsal room. And so it gave us a piece, and I just modified the name a bit, and so we have Claire's Tango, which is a fabulous guitar solo from Nick, and then a lovely bit of rifforama, also generated by Nick.
It really cuts through live as well. It's a real ripper. It's one of those ones where the energy kind of really fizzes, and I think audiences really react to it extremely well. I think possibly because it has this kind of minimal start, and then it just builds and builds and builds, and it's so it's a cracking number to play live. You just really feel yourself
being pulled in,
crackling with it. It's really a very electric number to play.
It's quite an interesting one live, that one, Mark, because from my point of view, these three guys are all beavering away trying to keep it in time in 13/8.
Yes,
which is really quite difficult to keep in time, and they're sort of really concentrating like to keep this thing in time. And I just can't. I could never find a way of how to solo over this sequence and this time signature. I just didn't know what to do. So I just play completely over the top and ignore all the timing changes, and I just play over the top of it and play through the changes of the harmony. But it's quite interesting. I'm quite enjoying myself, just sort of like doing all this stuff, and they're like trying to keep it all together. But you do a great job, a really great job.
Okay, now this next one, you definitely have to explain this. It's all Roman numerals. The way I figured it was 1589. Looking through the history books, the only thing I could find was the Drake Norris expedition. But tell me what this was all about. What's the? Does it have nothing to do with history, or go for
it? Again, this is one of mine. There was the Spanish Armada in 1588, which, as we all know, didn't go off terribly well. In the end, it had more to do with the weather than any prowess on the part of the Elizabethan Navy. But the following year, in 1589, you're quite right, Drake did want to kind of have a rematch. There were some objectives. There were 3 objectives that they had, and they met none of them. They went with a larger force than the Armada had been in the previous year, and limped home with about a quarter of them. And so we don't really, it doesn't get taught in history lessons in British schools. Strangely, it does get taught in Spanish schools. They know all about it.
They learned a lesson, yeah.
But I wanted to write something that's just about that. And it could be, in a way, any naval battle from kind of the 1500s through to perhaps the late 1700s, kind of the British prowess, where it all relied on, cannons or cannon being fired at the different ships, and I just imagined someone who was kind of on deck, but a cannonball comes through and they're blown out of the ship, and they find themselves in the water. No real hope of rescue. No one's going to come and try and save them. There might be some splintered bits of wood that they can hold on to float, but the water will be cold. They're a long way out from the beach, and even if they were to make it to shore, they're a foreigner. They're the enemy, and basically they've got no hope, and it's just what's going through the guy's mind. And I wanted to try and I borrowed from the idea of cinema that's kind of with a lot of action films, and well, indeed with dramas and things as well, not necessarily kind of the high action. You want to start in the middle of something, so you will have the James Bonds, the Mission Impossible, kind of the Marvel thing. It will start in the middle of some action, and then once that's calmed down, you then have a bit of exposition for how do we get there. And I wanted to borrow that, so it starts with the guy's in the water, and he's kind of like, I never thought I'd be so glad to see a cloud. He's still alive, in the water. And then the second verse says, well, how did we get there? And then the third verse is, well, what becomes of it now? And then he remembers his girl back home and hopes that she's thinking of him. And so it's about that. And then there's an excuse for a long flute solo. So that was kind of the way of getting the bands to buy into it. Just put a flute solo and hope that John will want to play it. And he does, and he plays it beautifully. But also, we're as a unit, I noticed that we can play tight riffs together. So like Red Hair and kind of theme and rondo and things like that, things we've been playing. And so I wanted to have kind of for the end something that we can really play and enjoy. And it's just so I just came up with a simple riff that we could play unison, kind of underneath something, some exciting flute going over the top. And so that's how that came together. It's
Excellent.
A little piece of cinematic history.
When you first started talking about it, I don't know why, but the only thing I could think of was Monty Python and the Spanish Inquisition. And
well, there's that. Yeah,
there's that too. Yeah, but no, I mean, it has nothing to do with this. But as far as fun, I mean, when you first started talking, I was like, boom. You guys remember the skit?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't expect you to mention it though.
They did it so many times you couldn't possibly have missed it. Okay, now let's go back to serious. Again, thank you for doing I Talk with the Wind. And Robert Fripp has finally agreed to get back, and now there's going to be a new King Crimson, in case you haven't heard. So that's going to be exciting to see what happens when that happens.
Although David Singleton, the manager, has kind of waded in and say, "Oh, wait." So, what form something being recorded might take, and whether it might actually see the light of day, are quite separate things.
Oh, really? So, you don't think they'll do it?
I think they're probably recording, but they've then got decisions to make as to, are we actually going to put it out? Is kind of what I get from David Singleton's.
Well, now see, that's funny because I thought they were pushing so hard for Fripp to give up on his things he's doing with his wife, which I think are actually fun. They wanted him to give that up to come back to this. They finally got him to do it, and you're not going to release this. I mean, I know if
it depends. It's the, as artists, if they feel that yes, this is good King Crimson music, and we want to present it to the world, then that may happen. But if they decide
if he's involved,
it
will be. He will make sure it is. I mean, not just him, but I mean everyone else. I don't think he would have joined in. That's just my opinion, unless he knew this was going to be,
it could be studio versions with all three drummers separated of some of the live show rather than generating entirely new music. Who knows?
Could be.
We will find out in the years to come.
But obviously, John, you told us your enthusiasm for the song and it inspired you. One thing, and I just, it has nothing to do with you, Jeremy. You did a fantastic job. But anytime I hear anything from that era, it's Greg Lake. And I really miss him. A wonderful person, and just it's a shame we lost. I mean, it's a shame we lost a lot of people, but definitely it's same thing with when Steve does Supper's Ready and stuff. So it's good. There's absolutely no doubt about the quality, but you just it must have been a very, very tough thing to sit there to try to do this. I know it'd be impossible for me. I would be like, nope.
Mark, I think you have to put that sort of thing out of your head. Yeah. Otherwise, you won't do anything. I mean, if you think about it, it's preposterous, the idea of me sitting playing Hands of the Priestess acoustic guitar with John Hackett. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. But I do it because that's what we're doing. Well. I give it my best shot, but I'm never going to be Steve. But and that's who John's been playing that with forever. Yeah. So if I start getting in my head about all that stuff, then I'm just paralyzed. As far as I Talk to the Wind goes, I think it's an interesting point to raise because most people are familiar with the Greg Lake version, which is very yearning, very plaintive. But the earlier version with Judy Dybel singing it is much more bouncy. It's a hippie kind of number. It's a much more of a folk song with a much, much lighter kind of vibe. I guess the way I sing it is kind of the way I feel it, which is a very kind of fragile kind of approach to it. That's the way I hear it. And I think, and certainly when we've sung it with Olga and with Amy and Heather, they all bring their own sensibility or their own version of that fragility to that performance as well. They get it, that's the way this is going to be done. And I think John and I think we're all very grateful that they've kind of read it in the same way, because they might have come in, with their own ideas, but no, they've been very responsive to the way that we've decided to do it. And of course, I'm never going to be Greg Lake, but I can't think like, and we, in the same way as when we sing Hierophant, I'm not Sally Oldfield or Amanda Lemon, but but that's fine. We do it this way.
I mean, back in the day, good. No, I think you did good. Nick, I'm sorry.
It's all right. I was just saying I'm disappointed that he's not Sally Oldfield.
He's not what?
Yeah, sorry. Disabuse you of that, Mr. Fletcher. I don't know what you thought was in the back of the car.
This is good.
I just disappoint him all the time.
You what, Jeremy?
I just disappoint you all the time, don't I, Nick? Really, that's what.
Well,
the teasing that goes
occasionally.
You miss this,
I
don't even know about some of these things. Good. Okay, let's do something that'll be easier. Too easy. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about that one.
Well, it's quite a dance influenced song, really. I mean,
Yeah.
I like a lot of Tamla Motown music. You know, I love Four Tops, and like when I wrote that, I was thinking very much as a kind of a dance number. And I mean, lyrically, it's very simple. It's basically, you know, we can work it out kind of thing. It's about a couple that are fighting, but you know, rather than just walking away and splitting up, that they'll work through their problems. So it's straightforward in that sense. But the interesting thing about this track was that I'd written the main song, and we tried it in the rehearsal room, and I think we all felt that it needed to kind of go somewhere in the middle. And I honestly can't remember who it was that came up with the idea that we should go into what is it, a 6/8 or a 12/8 section. But it really kind of lifts off at that point. So you've had the song, and then it goes into this whole other section where Nick does some fantastic soloing, and then the song comes back, and I think it's a stronger song for that. And you know, I hadn't written it like that with that section in, and it's what what the guys came up with when we were rehearsing it, and it's a much stronger
I
song
mean,
for that.
essentially was your tune, John, but we kicked it around a bit, and like you say, we added bits and sort of
Yeah,
reshaped it a little bit structurally, didn't
yeah,
we?
yeah. The riff
Which
is
is
just
an
slightly before the
interesting.
song. Yeah,
Yeah, it was an interesting sort of development of the song into something other than what it would have been otherwise. So
yeah,
it was
yeah.
good.
But it's a great example of what happens in the rehearsal room. You know, because of the nature of where we live, we can't be meeting up anything like as often as we'd like to for writing and rehearsing sessions. So a lot of the time we have to bring material to the rehearsal room and work it out. But a lot of it is quite well written before that happens. But then, actually, more often than we might realise, I think we'll have those moments where that collective kind of senses it's got to do something different here, or let's try this happen, and that's lovely. You know, it's lovely to have that moment where we're all kind of essentially writing together live in that moment. It's very thrilling because we don't we can't do it that much. So it's lovely when it happens, when there's an opportunity for it to happen.
All right, let's take you guys down a different road here. With the committee, I kind of felt this Fields and Crofts vibe. Do you guys know who they are? Have you heard their music before? Do you agree with me, or?
Who's that, Mark? You said that
Seals
again?
and Crofts, did you say?
Well, sure.
Yeah, as in Summer Breeze.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
Well, Summer Breeze is the only tune of theirs I know, so I couldn't comment about the rest. I'm not feeling.
You're not feeling it. All right.
This Summer Breeze necessarily, but you know, we're all different.
They wrote
yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of other tunes in their oeuvre that might tend towards the all-out funk that is the committee, and its twists and turns.
Yes.
It's actually a song about road signs.
All right.
So I was just going to jump in on that remark about the funk. Is that we also had a remark at one of our gigs that somebody said that John Hackett Band were surprisingly cool and funky, which kind of shocked us. So John decided, and his wife decided, we should have merch with it printed up on the back of the hoodies and T-shirts that the John Hackett Band are surprisingly cool and funky, and it was it's quite funny really, because we don't consider we're all very serious musicians. We don't really consider ourselves as funky dudes, but Duncan often does bring some funky music to what we do, so it kind of does lighten the mood a bit.
It's a tricky section as well. The round in the middle. It's
oh yeah, well that's the nightmare bit. That's the gentle giant bit, isn't it? Yeah. I can't do a gig and relax until we've played that. And then I breathe a sigh of relief and think, oh, thank God for that. Now we can get on with the gig.
Yeah. They don't know how we suffer, do they, Nick?
They don't, John.
All right. Anyone else want to say anything about the committee, or we'll move on to one of my favorite songs, Brotherhood, where you, this probably should be John talking about it, but go ahead. There's lots.
Yeah, well, I wrote it basically. It's not actually written about my brother. I wrote it when Russia invaded Ukraine, and it was meant just as a feeling of that you get with fighting forces of that like Band of Brothers. It's that kind of standing together. I mean, it's not something that I've personally experienced, but it was meant in a. I wrote it in a kind of. I thought of it as like an anthem, really, and obviously it's basically a guitar solo, and Nick's done a fantastic job with it. So I've been delighted the way it came out. But yeah, it's purely instrumental.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful tune. Again, like John was saying about he's very much driven by creating great melodies, probably because of his expertise on the flute. And that is a case in point, which is it's a fabulous melody. And I think when we recorded it, I think I decided to put some harmony parts on, so it has a slight Brian May kind of vibe in places with those multiple guitar parts. But it was the kind of anthemic sort of theme that was kind of crying out for that approach, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it works. It works really
I mean,
well.
I wrote it at the piano, and I mean, I do a lot of piano. I mean, I'm not a brilliant pianist, but I do a lot of piano playing these days, and I play for our local church. Often at the keyboard and playing a lot of hymns, and so I play a lot of music that's kind of has that very very strong melody, and that was kind of the starting point. So yeah, I wrote the whole thing at the piano, and then tried it on the guitar. Put it that way. It was very much melody driven.
The next one is Jeremy's Butterfly Banshee. Something about the garden. He loves his gardening.
Actually, it's a bit more personal than that, really. If I'm honest, it's probably the most personal song on the album. Really, it's extended metaphor about growing up.
Yeah.
We never ever really do, I suppose. And what would the caterpillar say to the butterfly? What would the butterfly say to the caterpillar about their experiences? What's it like to fly? What's it like not to have wings? It was just a way of exploring. Am I comfortable with change? Maybe I'm not as comfortable with change as I should be, and it's just telling that story through this extended metaphor, which either people get or they don't. But it's fine if people if people want to see it as a song about gardens. That's fine too.
No, I know. I was just kidding.
It's fine, but yeah, it's a song that means a lot to me, really. Yeah.
I think there's a theme emerging from when you speak to Jeremy, that often his writing and his songs, especially in his lyric writing, there are some deep, meaningful things going off underneath something that could be taken as a superficial lyric, but underpinning it is a lot of depth, and as he says, it's often very personal. So for someone, it's not always easy for the listener to grasp that on a first listen. You need to stick with it and listen to it a bit to really sort of work out what is being said through the lyrics. And I think that comes across in quite a lot of what you write, Jeremy, which is really great because it's again, it's like the progressive music thing where there's some real sort of depth and deeper meaning behind what can sometimes appear to be a more superficial expression.
Well, and we're all through this aging process, and none of us, well, I found some good things about it. And
oh, really? Tell me.
I don't fight it as much as I used to. Well, I mean, I think back to every time I, see like an 18, 20-year-old, and by the way, I have a 25-year-old. But when I see him, and I made the same mistakes when I was that age. But when you see them making these mistakes, it's like, yeah, I'd like to have the body, the mind, all that stuff, and the energy, obviously the energy. But at the same time, I've learned so much since then. And I wouldn't make those, what I think are, simple mistakes. But
I keep making them.
well, I do sometimes, but yeah,
I definitely do.
For me, I've accepted aging, I guess. And that's why I know that's not what he was hitting at, but the brother thing really hit me hard. I've lost my brother 5 or 6 years ago, and I try not to remember the date. But I've also lost both of my parents as well, and it's me alone now. And so there's a lot of ways you can take that, and I've decided to move on with my life. I still have my son, I have my beautiful wife, and you can either get ground up in aging, or you can find another outlet. And so far that's been what I've done. And I don't fight it anymore. You really can't. I mean, you're just wasting time, and you could be spending that time, that limited time, on something that's good for you.
That's very true. Although I still feel like I find it difficult. Must admit.
Yeah. You would really want to go back to 20 or 25?
No, I just find it. I find the whole thing difficult to deal with. I feel like very much like Dylan Thomas, and I'm still raging against the dying of the light.
Well,
but that's good in some respect, because it feeds into my playing. So there's a lot of angst sometimes in my playing still, and if people can relate to that, that's good.
Oh yeah, there's. I'm not giving that up. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Some things you just you're wasting time fighting it.
Sure.
The hair's going to get. Some people color their hair. I said never. If I lose this hair, I'm going to be like Duncan. I'm not going to.
No, I'm trying to centre parting.
He's got plenty of hair growing on the outside.
Huge centre parting.
I'm sorry. I'm just teasing. I'm not. But
the thing I find really frustrating about getting older is that I feel personally as if I'm only just beginning to scrape the surface of what music is all about. I mean, it's taken me donkey's years just to sort of learn the flute, and I'm practicing the piano now. I'm beginning to look into orchestration, composition. There is so much involved in the art of music that it's impossible to cover it all, but it's still fascinating and a wonderful journey. But I just wish I had more time to explore all those avenues.
Yeah, well, I feel the same, John. Yeah,
and I feel, where should I be putting my time? I don't want to be wasting my time doing something that's not rewarding.
Well, and a lot of us are balancing, full-time work with all these things that we're doing, and there are times when I'm like, I would just love to quit, and I know I can't do that financially, but I would just love to quit and do this full time, and there's not enough time to do things like this, to have conversations like, when I was a kid. That part I definitely do miss. And I think I've told Nick this before, but this whole idea of interviewing came out of my youth. I mean, not just me. I mean, everyone's been doing this, but I mean, from my youth, we used to sit down, and we didn't have a lot of money, and we each buy an album, and we'd sit down, we'd listen to it, and then talk about it. And that's really what the whole idea was, just to sit down with a band and find out what the hell went into this wonderful album they just made. And so that part lives on, and now I'm much more skilled, I hope, than back then. But yeah, I don't know. You can handle age a lot of different ways, and I'm not fighting it. I'm doing what I can to enjoy however much time is left, and none of us knows.
It's the right attitude.
You got it. Yeah. How about a country gentleman? I think John is, and I think that the whole family. You guys are so lucky to be working with that family. I know he's gonna not like that, but I don't care. I've talked to his brother. His brother is just as nice. And this is, I'll relate that story. I talked to him about this, but way back during the GTR days. I don't know if you guys remember that. They came to Seattle, and I stayed after the show like I always do, hoping that some of the band members would come out and talk to us. Well, the two Steves walked out, and everyone in there, and we were, I don't know, 18, 20, maybe even younger than that. And our jaws just dropped to the floor. I mean, here you got two of the greatest, guitarists in the world, and they're coming out to talk to you. And then, I'm sorry, not Steve, Chris. And I'm sorry. See, that's what happens. And Steve Hackett was silent, but I can't remember his name. Steve Howe. He goes, okay, we're going to open the floor to any questions. And I was, any question? I couldn't believe it. But ask Steve if he remembers this, and I know he probably won't. I mean, the guy's done so many shows, but it was one of the most spectacular moments of my concert going experience. For those two to come walking out, and then for Steve to walk out there and say, "We're going to answer all your questions." And they did. They actually did. I don't remember what I asked them, but he stayed there both of them stayed there and answered questions from fans, and it was unbelievable. Anyway,
Yeah,
so
that's lovely. Yeah. Well, Steve is a gentleman, I mean, he's a very kind person, and he always tries to make time for the fans and anybody that loves the music that he's given his whole life to. So he's a lovely guy. I mean, actually, the track "A Country Gentleman," I wrote it. It was actually for my father-in-law.
okay.
What happened was that he died after a long illness, and I was at I was at his house, and the rest of the family were downstairs and grieving, and I went upstairs to sort of leave them, to their grief for a time. And there happened to be a guitar in the room, and I picked it up, and I just wrote the main melody of that piece, because I had a great affection for Mike Barlow. He was a great guy. He helped us, you know, he and his my mother-in-law helped us buy our first house. He was always very kind to me. He used to come around to our house, and I'm hopeless with DIY and putting up shelves and anything like that. And I'd always be practicing my flute, and he'd arrive and put on his overalls and get out his hammers and drill. Say, right, what needs doing? Next minute he'd be up a ladder, and just being really, really helpful and supportive. And he was a great guy. Not a famous person, but a gentleman. So really, that was written about him. And musically, it's a kind of a combination of the classical approach, because it starts with flute and harp. I mean, it's influenced by Vaughan Williams, really, the opening, and then there's sort of strings come in again, very English sort of pastoral feel about it. But then I wanted to make it have the rock feel, and so that's when you get Nick with the electric guitar, drums, and I hope it works as a fusion of the two worlds.
Mhm.
Well, having now met you, I would say that you and Steve both fit that same category, and uh, you're just good. I don't want to use the word. No, I'm not going to use that word. Just good country gentlemen, and just
A bit of a city boy, actually. I don't really
well,
spend that much time in the country, but yeah,
you both seem at peace, and that's the key.
yeah,
Me,
yeah.
you both are at peace with yourself at what you're doing, how you're producing music, and that says everything to me, and I'm sure other fans as
Yeah.
well.
Well, I mean, not
I think
also, sorry.
I was going to say that
I was just going to say, just we both consider ourselves very fortunate to still be doing what we're doing, at our age, and the opportunities that we've had. I mean, for me, it's amazing to be on stage with these guys, and the excitement that we can generate as a band, and people coming up and saying they've enjoyed the shows and everything. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful feeling, and I certainly don't take it for granted, which I probably did when I was younger. And when I
Yeah,
was first out on tour with Steve, I think I took a lot of things for granted. And as you were saying earlier about being
age.
younger and everything, when people say they've got no regrets about what they've done, I think what an extraordinary life they must have had. I've got lots of regrets about the way I've lived my life, but no, so
It just kind of suggests that those people have never taken a risk.
Well,
well,
there.
there is that.
Yeah.
I think also talking about Steve and John is that also not forgetting that this year, okay, it's the 50th anniversary of Acolyte, which we've been celebrating. We're doing all this music, presenting it live, and as the band's new album, John's also been on 2 albums with Steve. Because he did the Trading Boundaries live album, which is a beautiful album recorded in a beautiful venue in the south of England, which came out a few months ago. And then just recently, this month, is the release of the Live at the Albert Hall Lamb Stands Up tour. John's on that as well. So, John's collaboration with Steve still continues, which is always, I think, is just fantastic. It's great.
And the wonderful thing is that you don't seem competitive or anything. I know when my brother was alive, it was sports. I mean, he and I were always competing when it came to sports, but I don't see that from the two of you. You just get along so well.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not always true. I'm sure you probably had things.
Well, we've got quite different backgrounds really as musicians. You see, I mean, Steve is completely self-taught, a very natural musician. A wonderful, wonderful natural talent. I'm the one that's went off to university to study music, to have music lessons and all that. I feel that I've learned what I have through a lot of just graft, and I've always been a great believer. If you keep working at something, then surely you must get better at it. So so we're quite different, and of course with his being a guitarist, I think I realized many years ago, when I was attracted to taking up the flute, that I didn't want to just copy him, and that I wanted to sort of make my own way. So but there are also a lot of similarities, though. But there's no question of competition. I mean, it's
a collaboration, John, isn't it? You both bring different elements, and whenever you've worked together, on whether it's recordings or live, that collaboration of what you bring into the mix and what Steve brings into the mix creates something actually quite unique. So it's a unique expression artistically. I've always thought. I mean, even from the get-go with Acolyte. There's something there. There's a magic in what you've always done with Steve, because you both, like you say, you come from different musical backgrounds, but you both have amazing talent, and it collaborates, makes this thing which is unique.
Yeah, it always felt very easy back in those days with Acolyte. Certainly from my point of view, it felt easy, And also, it was a lot of fun, to be honest. It was just great, going into a recording studio and,
Mm.
Well, and you
playing into
mentioned,
these lovely microphones and reverb and any instruments that, were needed, like tubular bells, which could be brought down and, and
Double speed flute.
messing around with tape recorders and things, it was just a lot of fun. And I think I'm actually beginning to recapture some of that feeling at my advanced age now, that I just want to have a lot of fun with music, and not lose sight of that, because that's really what kind of got me into it, that enjoyment of it.
Mm.
So,
there's another part of that growing old. Yeah, I've accomplished all the things I wanted to do. Now I can go and enjoy myself, and that's good. Yeah, that's I'm in that same place, and that's a good feeling when you get there, and hopefully everyone gets there and makes it there and holds out until you do. Don't give up. It's a tough road for anyone, um, but keep hanging in there, and you'll make it. Um, Definitely. No, I see that. Um, and of course, yeah, no, I'm not going to do it. It would be too easy to do it. But since Nick brought up the lamb, there's the obvious note, but I won't. We all know what it is. I'm not going to say. Okay. Um, no. Okay.
I don't know what you're going to say.
So, John.
Pardon? Oh, the John.
Are you
Brother
referring
John.
to Brother John?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
Brother
He
John.
got it.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I mean,
no.
even there, you saw that friendship, that the importance of that relationship and how tight the two of you guys must have been. I wish I had that same sort of relationship with my brother, and I think everyone wants that, and I'm glad you guys have that, and that's great. And that's what that song meant to me, and
Really,
and it
yeah,
hit me so hard, you know,
yeah, yeah.
bringing back those memories and saying,
Really, yeah,
"Gosh, I
yeah,
wish."
yeah, yeah. Well, Steve was always very kind to me when I was younger, because I mean, 5 years is actually quite a big age gap.
Yeah.
But he never sort of talked down to me, and he would always like include me. And when friends came around and the guitars came out, I'd stay in the room, and I'd be sitting listening or join in myself sometimes. Even like with his first professional band, Quiet World, who were a recording band. They'd come around and rehearse, and I'd be sitting in the room, and they even gave me a guitar from time to time, to join in. Which it was extraordinarily kind of him to include me in that way.
And that brings up one more thing that I was reading today. Um, you started with guitar and then went to flute. From this is what I read, and then you can confirm and tell me if it was wrong. And then he started with harmonica and something else, and went to guitar. So it's amazing how that is that true?
Yeah. He started off as playing harmonica as a kid. I mean, I think before you started recording, we were talking about when the family moved to Canada back in the 50s. It was 1957, and so Steve would have been 7 years old, and on board ship going over to Vancouver. Our father had already moved to Vancouver to find work and to find a place to live. And we then followed. Myself, I was 2, Steve was 7, and my mum and aunt travelled then by ship. And Steve used to disappear off for periods of time. The 7-year-old suddenly sort of go missing, and then he'd appear again, and he'd have like a handful of money. And my mum said, "Well, where have you got all this money from?" And you say, "Oh, I've been playing my harmonica to the crew," and they've
Oh,
been,
wow.
say, "Yeah, this sounds great," So I think that's what gave him a taste for the music business at a very early age. And that ended up as a song called "Never Gonna Make a Dime," which was on the very first John Hackett Band album that we did, "We Are Not Alone."
Wow.
but yes, he started on harmonica and went to guitar. And yeah, I did start on. He taught me the guitar when I was about 12. Um, things like House of the Rising Sun and all that. And then I switched to. I mean, I carried on playing the guitar, but the flute then became my main thing.
All right, let's talk about the final track, the closer, the title song, and tell me, yeah, why did you choose Red Institution? I kind of wrote in my review what it is, but that may not be what you guys meant it to be. Um, Tell us about Red Institution, the idea behind it.
Well, it's got an abstract lyric, I suppose. It's not party political. I would stress that quite emphatically. I think I'd be very depressed if that was the conclusion people drew, because it's more about well, whichever political color you happen to nail to your mast, it's about assuming that you are right and that there is no nuance. That if you're on the left, you're morally pure, or if you're on the right, it, none of which are true, none of which could possibly be true. But we have entered a world in the last 10 years where a nuanced view of the world we live in has been siphoned away.
Yeah.
And discouraged, actually, in a lot of ways. There's a lot of capital to be gained to be keeping people angry at each other. And so it's about that. It's sort of a kind of way of talking about that. I mean, it echoes also the concerns I was saying earlier on about social media, all that kind of stuff. It's become a very challenging world to live in, and I don't think it's the world that we were perhaps expecting to live in at this point. There was a lot of promise at the end of the 20th century, I felt, particularly in this country. There was a lot of very sound ideology, a lot of compassion in politics. And that changed. Did it, I don't want to get heavy duty about this, but it did. We know it did. We can't pretend it didn't change. And I don't think we've quite worked out how to manage those changes really yet. It's easier to add fuel to the fire. But I don't believe in nothing. I believe in hope. And it's funny, we've been on the road, and you were talking about Heather Findlay. I know you interviewed her not long ago, and she kind of is the flip side to my rather saturnine way of looking at the world. She actually sees things with a much more hopeful stance, and I think the two are needed. The balance between the kind of like frustration with the state of the world, and her kind of view, that there is sort of there is a lot to be hoped for. That there are good people in the world doing good things, and there is still compassion. There is still sound ideology. It hasn't all gone away. It's there, and I think sometimes I personally need to be reminded of that. But I'm afraid a song like Red Institution probably came out of a time where I was feeling kind of like, this is all a lot. This is all a lot, and I'm not quite sure where the light at the end of the tunnel is. And I don't think I'm alone in feeling that. But you have to, it's in there, and you've got to get it out somehow. And this kind of abstract kind of idea of kind of maybe an institution, a building where all this stuff was housed, kind of resonated for me. So that's the way I was able to talk about it. And maybe these themes bubble up, these themes of communication and authenticity, I guess, and bubble up throughout the album. It doesn't make it a concept album by any means, stagnation. But these are the concerns of the day, and they have to be echoed in art, don't they? That's how it works. That's what art's there for.
Well, definitely from the other side of the pond, I grew up, I call myself this, I mean, I'm not scientific or science fiction, but we grew up watching Star Trek. And there's a lot of good and bad in that. But you had this multicultural group of people working together, exploring the universe. And here, here I am, a little tiny kid watching that and thinking, oh man, the future is going to be fantastic. This is going to be fun. And now I get here and we got a guy in office that's trying to go back to the 20s and 30s. And it is very frustrating. And fighting the wars that we all thought were settled. You kept hearing World War One, the Great War. This is going to be it. And then World War Two, the war to end all wars. And here we are. It seems like not the good Back to the Future, but the bad side. It's like we're going backwards, and it's like and from us, it's very. And I know I shouldn't say it this way, but I can't help it. But from the U.S., we've been a leader, and to watch us disintegrate into where we are now is very, very frustrating. It's very embarrassing, to be perfectly honest. But you see places like Japan and like I was talking about Europe, you're coming up with so many, especially the Netherlands, the harnessing of the oceans and things like that. And it's like we used to do this. We did this in the 50s and the 60s. We also created the nuclear bomb back then too. But all that innovation seems to have gone out the window, and there's this, get rid of the intelligent people, and it's very scary. It's very worrisome, and it's not where any of us on this side of the ocean expected to be.
Well, and one thing too, and the Star Trek of the future, the Buck Rogers of the 25th century, Terminator, and so many other science fiction things set in the future. They have their utopian future, but the way that they've got there is out of outright destruction. And we're this side of the outright destruction at the moment, and the science fiction is the other side of it. So somewhere that destruction is going to come. Maybe it's next year. Who knows? Just thought I'd get you up with that.
We're a very light-hearted band, Mark.
I guess so.
We're a jolly band. You want to be in the car with us when we're having these discussions.
Well, yeah, this is why I love these conversations. But didn't you guys grow up with that same? Yeah, it was utopian. You're right. But didn't you
there is that kind of where's my jetpack sort of feeling?
No, I don't mean all that. I'm just saying, we live as one, we work together, and yes, it's utopian, but you just kind of hope that someday we can figure this out. I mean, the Beatles sang about it. So many other bands have said the same. Yeah, us and them. When are we going to get it? John Lennon, imagine, and it's hard to imagine now. It really is difficult. And that's what I saw in the song is, your frustration with where things seem to be heading. And believe me, we're all there with you. Anyway, that's my take, but you guys jump in here. It's your song.
Well, no, I do. It's I don't know. It does. it makes it all sound terribly morose, and we're not morose people. Heavens no, we're not morose people. As Nick alluded to, most of the time we're together, we spend laughing. But this stuff comes out. In a band, if you're in the privileged position of being in a band which is putting out records and performing live, and it is an immensely privileged position. I know most people would give their eye teeth to be able to do it. There is, without wishing to sound too pretentious, so it's probably going to sound pretentious, and I'm sorry, there does seem to me a certain responsibility to kind of give voice to concerns, alongside. I mean, I'm not saying that's all you should do with art at all. Of course not. It's got to be entertaining. It's got to be fun. It's got to be melodic. But this was what was inside my mind, and preying on my mind at that time, and it still is, to a certain degree. But I think maybe I've been exposed, like I say, to a bit more hope over the last year or so, which is lovely. And it's so there is a balance there. There is a balance to be struck. It is not. It's not all gloom and doom. I don't think it is. I think the game isn't up yet. When people stop caring about it, it is. But that's not my experience.
Ultimately, for me, it comes down to what your beliefs are. Is there any point to this life? And is all suffering meaningless? And futile. I don't believe that at all. I'm a Christian, and I believe in, you read the book of Revelation and all the awful things that it depicts. Some of it very difficult to understand, but it seems like we're either living through those times or about to live through them. But ultimately, good will out. The most important thing is love and kindness to other people, treating other people as you would like to be treated yourself. So I'm optimistic, and that's
good.
But obviously there are, as you've said, Mark, there are some shocking things happening in the world, and in so many places. It's just, where do you start?
True.
So.
Yeah, we tend to look directly at home, but you're right, it is happening everywhere. And the Middle East and Ukraine, they've been through a long slog, and thankfully you guys are helping out with Ukraine, and hopefully some of these things will get resolved and not turn into the apocalypse. And okay, I think we need to.
Just to jump in on that, Mark. Just to say that it's interesting that John was obviously made a comment which could be seen as something quite light, trite, in that love is all you need. What the Beatles once said, but it's very true. And this business
when
about
it comes down to
but this business about people warring against each other and and these terrible things that are going off in the world, and the antagonism towards different societies and different nationalities and all the rest of it, and social media polarizes people and puts them into their echo chambers, and that doesn't help either. But we're in a position where we as a country are supporting Ukraine. We are almost fighting a proxy war against the Russians. And yet, as a band, we work with a Russian who is utterly delightful. So it's not about
But she
people
did
are people.
Yeah,
obviously she left because it was difficult for her to live there. But what I'm trying to get at is that people are people wherever they are.
Well, yeah.
We're not. I'm not. We might be in the situation where we're in a proxy war against Ukraine, but that doesn't mean to say I don't like Russian people.
No, no.
And I'm sure the Russian people don't dislike us. It's the regimes and the governments that are causing the problems. The people themselves don't want it. No. It's been forever thus, hasn't it? Yeah. And so somehow we've got to overcome that, really, and realise that we're not against each other. It's these ridiculous regimes that want power and want to control and want to dominate. That we and the weird thing is that a lot of these people are actually elected. That's the frightening problem.
That none of us can believe that happened, but I mean, obviously, reality set in. But a lot of us were like, this couldn't possibly happen, and yeah, it did.
Yeah.
But you guys are taking me down the road to my undergraduate political science. I don't want to go there, because once I get
we'll stick with the music. Sorry, Mark.
Once I get started, look out. No. Elites and all that stuff, but and that's the funny thing. At the same time, I was watching Star Trek and Star Wars and all these things. I'm learning in school about elites and how they want to control everything, and you tune that off, but that's what's taken over, and it's tough. Okay, let's talk about something good, because I don't want to end it on a bad note. Nick, you have a new solo album coming, and I don't know if you want to talk. You're going to talk about it, I guess, in August. But do you want to mention anything yet, or it's up to you?
No, not really. No, I don't. Maybe we'll have a chat later on, later in the year, Mark, about that. But at the moment, I'm not really saying anything about it.
But he does have one coming.
It's being mixed.
It is October, right? Did I get the right time frame?
And it's being mixed, and it'll be out in October. That is for sure. Okay. But I'm not saying anything more about it at the moment.
No.
About what's going on with it, but I'm sure if you're interested, we can talk further nearer the time.
Oh, definitely. No, I hope we'll do an interview and all that about it later.
Yeah.
I know you also have a lot of solo projects and things that you're involved with. Do you want to talk about any of those?
Sorry,
am I getting too far away from the mic here? Maybe it's falling on me here.
No, I think it's just network issues. It just dropped off. So to whom was your question?
For you. It was for you, because you're also doing a lot of solo projects, solo work, and work outside of the group, the band. Are you working on a solo album, or tell us what you're doing?
I am. I'm just about to give John a bunch of files to put some flute on. I'm doing an instrumental jazz rock album to be called Urban Submarine. It has tunes that are a minute and a quarter, minute and a half long. It has one tune that's 20 minutes long. But most of them are kind of round about the 5-6 minute mark. I've had Leland Sklar, Phil Collins and James Taylor and everyone else as bassist played on an album of mine a couple of years ago, On Earth As It Is, and he's returned to play on a couple of tunes for this one. I'm hoping for a few others coming along, and John and Nick have both said that they would play on it, so I'm taking them up on the offer. And there are a couple of people who are kind of complete unknowns. One of them is a lady who I saw improvising to some Gentle Giants tunes on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
French lady who had still does have a quite distinctive name, and so she was quite easy to find on Facebook. And this was a number of years ago.
What's she called?
But finally, pardon?
I didn't ask. Nick did, but I was.
What's it called?
Oh, Mélanie Bécourt.
The distinctive name. Pardon?
Yes.
Who?
Mélanie Bécourt.
Can you repeat that?
That's
Okay.
Mélanie Bécourt. Yeah, so she's
Mélanie Bécourt. Well, that's what you say, Yorkshire lad. Ah,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Mélanie Bécourt.
So she'll be playing some soprano sax for me, and there'll be 3 violinists on the album. Different. So that's one thing I'm doing. I've also got planned kind of the next 3 or 4 albums after that.
Wow.
One of them's a folk rock album. One of them's a more progressive album. I've done a couple of albums under the name of Music for Stairlifts. There is another Music for Stairlifts album that's kind of half done, and at some point I will pick it up again. There will be a Common Sense Dancing Volume 2 at some point as well. So yeah, but somewhere in the middle of it, I still need to pay the rent. So I have to be distracted by the practicalities of life. But yeah, I keep myself busy.
Yeah, it sounds like that.
Can I ask a question? Mark? Is that all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
I need to ask a question of Duncan and Jeremy. What happened to the album that you were working on? I thought you were working on an album.
It's still
Is
there.
Not happening, or is it still there? Yeah. I just wondered if you got any plans to release it, because they've both been working on an album together for quite a while. I wondered if you got plans to release it soon.
Well, yes, but I think the band album, I mean, it's all about momentum, isn't it, Nick? I mean, the momentum is with JHB, and we're the ones who are out on the road touring, so it made sense to prioritize that one. And obviously, I'm not up in Sheffield that much, so and I think I like a lot of the writing, but I don't like all of the writing, and a lot of the writing I don't write is mine, so I need to go back to it and look at it again, because it's not it's not quite. I'm not quite as turned on by it as I was before, to be honest. So I want to go back to it and have a look at it. So yeah, it's definitely something that we're going to do. So there is some stuff on it, but I want it all to be strong, you know.
What else are you working on, Jeremy? I was going to ask John, but we'll go with Jeremy. And
well, my main task is planning the world conquest for the band for the next 2 years. So I'm sort of already booking gigs for 2027, and we've pretty much got our autumn 2026 tour line sorted out, which is going to include some stuff.
Realist. No.
Sorry, I missed that.
It's a bad joke. Go ahead.
No. I mean, that's the thing. It takes a lot of planning ahead to get this stuff going, and I think I wanted to allow us enough time between this tour, which finishes in late November this year, and the next tour, to actually have some creative time together, because you've got to understand that a lot of the time when we're meeting up, we're getting match fit for the next tranche of gigs we're going to be doing. There isn't always as much time as we would like to be able to just relax and just get creative. It's just I mean, it's different for different bands, but you know, you've got to prioritize being on form for the gigs. So I've kind of tried to plan a bit of time for us to do that, and to look at perhaps a bit more of the classic Hackett material as well, because you know, it's a lot of fun to play. It's beautifully written, you know. John was a huge part of so much of it, particularly those early albums. So we'll have time between the end of this tour and when the autumn tour next year starts in mid-September, to actually really enjoy just getting together and just playing, which it's going to be a lot of fun, I think, you know. So that's what I've been working on.
All right, John, do you want to talk about?
There's a lot of gigs. There's a lot of gigs coming up.
Yeah, I didn't know about next year.
Next year we've got a lot of gigs. Yeah, I think between September November next year, we're probably doing as many as we're doing the whole of this year.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a compressed.
So it's going to be a full on time.
A much more traditional tour in that sense, in that we, rather than spreading them out across the year, we're doing them into a much more compressed period. The advantage of that is that you get tighter and tighter and tighter as a band. You just get hotter and hotter as a band. So you're just building and building. You haven't got this kind of constantly, like, you build up to do the gigs
Hold
and then
away.
you have to come back from it and build again and come back from it, which I personally find extremely difficult to do. So we're just keeping on that boiling point for a sustained period of a couple of months. So I'm hoping that if you come and see us sort of next, in the autumn next year, we're going to be on fire, really. That's the aim.
All right, John. Sorry.
Well, I've always got a lot of projects kind of on the go, whether or not they're actually recorded or they're just still ideas in my head. But I mean, well, there's, in a concrete sense, there's the Beatrix Players album, which is being recorded. So that's one recording. There's obviously, as Jeremy said, we're going to do another band album. So writing for that has to take priority, and I'm very much looking forward to that. I've also got other stuff that I'm working on. I've been working on some orchestral arrangements, some orchestral pieces, and I've been having a lot of fun with that. I'm having to bring that into fruition. I've been wanting to do a follow-up to Velvet Afternoon for some time, which is an album I did for flute and piano. The list kind of goes on, really. I mean, I've just find I absolutely love writing music, but I'm not very good at writing. As well, like Jeremy was saying, I'm not very good at writing when I'm busy doing lots of other things. I can't just sort of. I mean, my brother's very good like that. He seems to be able to write in hotel rooms, while he's on tour and all that kind of. I just can't work like that. I need to sort of feel that if I've got an idea and it starts to take shape, that I can run with it. And so, really, I need to feel I've at least got a week or a couple of weeks free, and luckily this summer I've actually got some time until we do our next gigs, the festivals, which are towards the end of the summer. So I'm hoping that it's going to be a creative time, but you never always know exactly when things are going to work out exactly as you want. But I do think there's a certain ethic about just trying to sort of get to your desk or your computer or your piano or whatever it is at a reasonable time in the morning. For me, that's probably about 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Morning.
Yeah, that's where I'm at my freshest, and just putting in some hours of work and coming up with stuff, and maybe not everything you write is going to be absolutely brilliant, and certainly with me, 90% of it does end up in the bin. But hopefully from that period, you might find that there's a 10% or even just a 5% of stuff that you write that's worth hearing. And that's what's great working with these guys, because everybody's very creative. And if you do come up with a good song and you want to try it out, then if we do have the opportunity to get together to rehearse, or not just, as Jeremy was saying, about rehearsing for gigs, but time when we can just have a creative period, then it's a fantastic way of trying out new material.
Give it a listen.
In a way that if I'm just like working with a computer on my own and I'm tracking everything, it's not the same as giving it to these guys and everybody getting hold of it and seeing where it can go, and that's a very exciting prospect.
Okay, last question. Directly from me. I just want to go around the room. I already mentioned my favorite song of all time, Supper's Ready. If you had to nail yourself down to one song, which is impossible for most people, not for me, there's no doubt about that one. But if you had to, which one would it be? Just whoever wants to go.
What, of any period of music, you mean?
Anything.
Yeah.
Rock, pop, classic.
I don't know. I'm just thinking with Brian Wilson dying recently. Good Vibrations. Yeah. I think it's such an amazing song.
Good. Yeah, that is awesome.
And he was an amazing songwriter. Really wonderful musician.
will probably be different tomorrow, but right now for me, it's not a song. It would be Six Pianos by Steve Reich.
Okay.
It's a piece of music. It transports me. I listen to it every New Year's Day morning. Sets me up for the year. Jeremy, sorry, I interrupted you.
No. I think it would be Scheherazade by Rimsky-Korsakov or Fauré's Requiem, if I could have all those.
Okay. No, yeah. Those are the things that move you most. All right, Nick, it's your turn. If you want to, you don't have to either.
Well, it's a slightly impossible task, isn't it? But there's so. Where do
And
you
that's
start?
why I asked. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, if somebody just come to mind and says like a piece of music that you couldn't, it's so profound that you couldn't do without. There's a piece of music by Arvo Pärt, the St. John Passion by Arvo Pärt, which, yeah, I couldn't live without that piece of music. But from a progressive rock perspective, one of my favourite all-time progressive rock songs is Octavarium by Dream Theater, which I think is probably one of the greatest works of progressive rock that anybody's ever created. I love Supper's Ready. I love all that stuff. What they did with that track was it was a clever piece of writing that encompassed all the influences of those bands of the 70s, but took it into a new place in a very clever way. And the playing and the writing is just unbelievably good. That I could never write a piece of music comparable to that ever. I just think it's just a great piece of progressive rock.
And I take my hat off to them for many reasons. I mean, you can see, well, you can't see, but I do have posters of Dream Theater right next to me. But they were the ones that did In Hell 'Twas an I, brought that one back from the dead from Procol Harum, which that's probably second right underneath Supper's Ready. They brought that back from the dead, and then they went down to Pompeii and relived the Pink Floyd experience, Dream Theater, I can definitely see where you're at on that. They really have done a lot to help keep the progressive rock light on for sure. But I got to go back to listen to Octavarium. I have it. I just
it's a great album, but the actual title track, which is about 23 minutes long, is just an incredibly clever piece of writing with the most astounding musicianship you could ever imagine. And it kind of builds on the past in a very clever way, but sounds original at the same time. I mean, how do you do that? I have no idea. It's very clever.
To play it in the car, Nick, because I've not heard it.
Hmm?
I'll play it in the car. I will bring it.
Play it in the car. Yeah, please. But no, I've heard it.
And when you get a chance, just throw that In Hell 'Twas an I by Procol Harum. When we lost the lead singer, that was another heartbreak for me. He was one of a kind. And if you listen to the words of that song, it's so damn deep that no one, you don't hear it anymore. And it's a shame. It really is a shame. I would love to see more and more people cover that, but that's another thing. But
they wrote some great music, Procol Harum, didn't they?
They did.
In fact, if I'm not wrong, John, I think isn't Salty Dog one of Steve's favourite albums?
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah,
it's a great song.
Yeah, we listen to it.
Yeah.
All right. We've covered a lot of ground, an amazing amount of ground.
Say that again.
I can't believe you guys hung in here this long. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Last question. Is there anything we didn't cover? I don't know how we couldn't have, but is there anything else that you guys would like to say that I didn't ask you or we didn't cover?
No, all I can say is just like a huge thank you to, you know, everyone that's been coming along to the gigs that we've been doing. Anybody watching this and, you know, buying the albums and, you know, just generally supporting us. We really do appreciate it. And thanks so much. And thanks to you, Mark, for having us today. You know, it's been really fantastic speaking with you. Thank you.
I hope it's been fun. I mean, these are always fun, no matter if I have to help translate, whatever I have to do. It's fun because you're talking to that person, you know, from maybe their language, their perception, and it's always interesting. I always, again, I think I told you, as a teacher, you always want to be learning. It's a great thing. But yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for anyone else. I'm sorry. Shut up. my wife always says, watches these, and she's like, Mark, shut up.
We've got a couple of festivals now over the summer. We're at the Wokingham Festival, and then we're at the Nene Valley Rock Festival in late August and early September. But then the tour resumes again in late September in Knutsford, and then in Colchester, and then in Aylesbury. So that's when we get started again, and we've got a few dates going up to the end of the year. I like with Olga, and with Heather, and with Eb, and with the Book of Genesis as well, and
with Amy
else?
And with Amy in Knutsford. Amy in Knutsford. Yeah.
Amy as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've heard that Eb is a lot of fun. You definitely can dance to their music from what I've seen.
A force of nature, I think you might say.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
doing a few gigs.
They've stunned a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah. Quite something. Quite something. Get them on.
I keep I keep asking for them to send an album and try to interview them, but they're too busy, probably.
I'll give them a nudge, don't worry.
Hey, thanks.
Don't worry.
Because I think they would be a lot of fun to talk to for sure. Yeah. Anything else? Anyone? All right. Well, we'll look forward to the new albums that are coming. And John's already mentioned they're going to be working on another album at no hurry or anything, but he's already, starting that process. So that's good. And really, thank you, all of you, for being here on a Sunday. And hope your weather cools down too by September. So that you're not, because I did watch some of your videos and saw some of your posts on Facebook, and you're like scorching in that heat, and it's like, and I think Nick said, hopefully they'll put a couple fans in. You guys are like we are. It usually is cold up here, and so you probably don't have central air in a lot of places, right? Central air conditioning. Yeah. So, well, hopefully it'll cool down for you. It always does, but sooner than later. Yeah. Okay, guys. I'm gonna. Anything else?
No. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much, Mark.
Again.
All right. I'm just going to stop don't leave just yet. I'm going to stop the recording, and then we can just talk for a few seconds. All right. But again, thank you very much, John Hackett Band. If you haven't heard this album, please get out there. What are you waiting for? Give them a listen. You can hear they're going to be on tour. They're going to be on tour next year. These guys are not going away. They're very creative. They've got a lot more coming. So please give these guys a chance. If you're one of those few people out there that's never heard about them, give these guys a chance, and I think you'll be happy you did. All right, hold on just a second.